If you're wondering how I ended up becoming an emergency +1 for my boss and why that single moment would transform both our lives forever, stay with me. This story might just remind you that sometimes the most beautiful beginnings happen on our worst days. If this resonates with you so far, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more stories that remind us of our shared humanity. I'm Alex Chen, 28, Marketing Coordinator at Horizon Publishing. Sarah Reynolds had been my boss for exactly 11 months and 14 days when I found her crying. In that time, I'd never seen her so much as flinch during the most stressful deadlines or heated board meetings. She was legendary for her composure, the ice queen of the 12th floor, some called her. Brilliant, demanding, and seemingly untouchable. What I didn't know then was that Sarah had been silently drowning for months. Her ex-husband had abruptly moved across the country with his new girlfriend, leaving Sarah to suddenly navigate single parenthood alone. That morning, her carefully constructed schedule had finally collapsed when her babysitter quit without notice and her parents, who lived 2 hours away, couldn't make it in time for the important charity gala she was supposed to attend that evening, a gala where she was being honored for her work with literacy programs in underserved communities. "I'm sorry," she said, quickly wiping her tears when she realized I was standing there. "You shouldn't have to see this." Emma looked up at me with curious eyes. "Are you Mommy's friend from work? She talks about you." Sarah's cheeks flushed. "Emma, honey. She says you're the only one who gets things right the first time," Emma continued, oblivious to her mother's embarrassment. I knelt down to Emma's level. "Your mom is the smartest person I know." "I'm Alex." "I like your glasses," Emma said, pointing to my tortoiseshell frames. "Thank you." "I like your unicorn shirt." Sarah was frantically trying to gather herself, stuffing papers back into her briefcase. "I need to call the foundation and tell them I can't make it tonight. I can't believe this is happening." "What's happening tonight?" I asked. "Mom's getting a big award," Emma announced proudly. "But stupid Jeremy quit being my babysitter." "Emma, we don't say stupid," Sarah corrected automatically, though her heart clearly wasn't in it. That's when she looked up at me with those red-rimmed eyes and asked the question that would change everything: "Do you want to be my date today?" God, I'm sorry, that came out all wrong. I meant, would you consider watching Emma for a few hours tonight? I'd pay you, of course. Double time. I can't miss this. It's important for my career, and Emma was so excited about wearing her new dress to see me get my award, and I surprised myself with my answer: "I'll do both." Sarah blinked. "Both? I'll be your date to the gala, and Emma can come too. We'll make it work." The relief that washed over Sarah's face in that moment made something in my chest tighten. For the first time since I'd known her, I saw the woman behind the executive title, vulnerable, human, and desperately trying to hold her world together. "You would do that? But it's so last minute, and you probably have plans." "No plans that can't be changed," I said, though in reality, my evening had consisted of takeout and Netflix. "Besides, I've always wanted to see you accept an award." Emma clapped her hands. "Can I still wear my princess dress?" Sarah looked from her daughter to me, a fragile hope dawning in her eyes. "Are you sure about this, Alex? It's a lot to ask." "I'm sure," I said, with more confidence than I felt. "What time should I pick you both up?" That evening found me standing nervously outside Sarah's downtown apartment, wearing the only decent suit I owned, clutching a small bouquet of flowers I'd impulsively purchased on the way. When the door opened, I nearly forgot how to breathe. Sarah stood there in a midnight blue gown that made her eyes look like deep ocean pools, her blonde hair swept up elegantly. Beside her, Emma twirled in a sparkly purple dress, a tiara perched precariously on her curls. "You brought flowers," Emma exclaimed. "Are you Mommy's boyfriend now?" Sarah's eyes widened in mortification. "Emma." I laughed, handing the bouquet to Sarah. These are for both of you ladies. And no, Emma, I'm just a friend helping out tonight. Friends can become boyfriends, Emma stated matter-of-factly. That's what happened on Princess Adventure Time. Sarah mouthed sorry over her daughter's head as she accepted the flowers. These are beautiful, Alex. Thank you. The drive to the hotel where the gala was being held was filled with Emma's chatter about princesses, unicorns, and her detailed explanation of why purple was superior to all other colors. I caught Sarah watching me in the rearview mirror as I engaged with her daughter, a curious expression on her face. You're good with her, she said quietly when Emma became distracted by the city lights outside the window. I have 6 nieces and nephews, I explained. Family gatherings are basically controlled chaos. I didn't know that about you. There's probably a lot we don't know about each other, I said. Office personas can be pretty one-dimensional. She nodded thoughtfully. I suppose that's true. When we arrived at the gala, I could feel Sarah's anxiety returning. She smoothed Emma's dress and then her own, taking a deep breath. Hey, I said gently. We've got this. Emma and I will be your biggest fans tonight. Emma nodded solemnly. We're your cheerleaders, Mommy. Sarah's eyes glistened. What did I do to deserve you two tonight? The evening progressed better than any of us could have expected. Emma charmed everyone she met, proudly telling anyone who would listen that her mommy was getting an award because she helped kids learn to read. I kept Emma entertained during the speeches, drawing little doodles on the back of the program and playing silent games of tic-tac-toe. When it came time for Sarah to accept her award, Emma and I cheered louder than anyone. Sarah's speech was eloquent and passionate, but what struck me most was when she departed from her prepared remarks to add, and I want to thank my daughter Emma, who reminds me every day why literacy matters, and my colleague Alex, who showed me tonight that sometimes help comes from unexpected places. Our eyes met across the crowded room, and something unspoken passed between us. Later, as the evening wound down and Emma began to fade, her head drooping against my shoulder, Sarah leaned over and whispered, "Thank you for saving us tonight." "You didn't need saving," I replied. "You just needed someone to have your back." The drive home was quiet, Emma having fallen asleep in the back seat. When we arrived at Sarah's apartment, I carried the sleeping child inside and followed Sarah's directions to Emma's bedroom. As I gently laid her down, Emma stirred slightly. "Alex," she murmured sleepily. "Yes, Emma? Will you come back tomorrow?" I glanced up to find Sarah standing in the doorway, watching us. "That's up to your mom," I said softly. Sarah tucked the covers around her daughter. "We'll see, sweetheart. Now go to sleep." In the living room, an awkward silence fell between us. The evening spell was breaking, reality seeping back in. Tomorrow, she would be my boss again, and I would be her subordinate. "Would you like some coffee?" Sarah asked suddenly. "Or tea? I feel like I owe you a proper thank you." "You don't owe me anything," I said. "But I'd love some tea." Over steaming mugs at her kitchen counter, Sarah finally told me the full story, how her ex-husband Mark had left them 8 months ago, how she'd been struggling to maintain her professional image while her personal life fell apart, how tonight had been the culmination of a project she'd poured herself into partly to keep from falling apart. "The hardest part is feeling like I'm failing Emma," she confessed. "I'm either focused on work and neglecting her, or I'm present for her and dropping balls at the office. I can never get it right." "From what I saw tonight, you're doing an amazing job with both," I said honestly. "Emma is clearly happy, well-adjusted, and incredibly proud of you." Sarah's eyes met mine. "Why did you help us tonight, Alex?" "Really?" I considered my answer carefully. "Because everyone deserves grace when they're struggling. And because I've respected you for a long time, but tonight I got to actually know you. The real you, not just the boss." "And," she prompted, a vulnerability in her voice I'd never heard before. "And I like the real Sarah Reynolds even more than I respected the boss." Something shifted between us in that moment, a door opening to possibilities neither of us had considered before. "This complicates things," she said quietly. "Only if we let it," I replied. Sarah set down her mug. "I should probably tell you that company policy discourages relationships between managers and their direct reports." "Probably," I agreed. "Is that your way of telling me to leave?" She shook her head slowly. "It's my way of saying I might need to talk to HR about restructuring the marketing department." I couldn't help but smile. "That sounds very professional of you." "I'm trying," she said, returning my smile with a tentative one of her own. When I finally left Sarah's apartment that night, nothing had happened beyond that conversation, but everything had changed. We both knew it would be complicated. Office politics, the challenges of dating as a single parent, the fact that we were still getting to know each other beyond our professional roles, none of it would be easy. But as I drove home under a canopy of city lights, I couldn't stop thinking about the moment I'd found Sarah crying on the office floor, and how sometimes our greatest connections begin when we're brave enough to let someone see us at our most vulnerable. The following weeks brought a careful dance of professional boundaries and personal exploration. Sarah spoke with HR about restructuring, and I was reassigned to report to another director while still working closely with Sarah's team. Emma was delighted when I began appearing regularly for dinner, bringing books for us to read together and teaching her how to make paper airplanes that could fly across the entire living room. 3 months after the gala, Sarah and I had our first official date, without Emma, though we spent half the evening talking about her. 6 months in, I was helping Emma with her homework while Sarah prepared dinner, the three of us settling into a rhythm that felt surprisingly natural. It wasn't always smooth. Sarah struggled with letting someone into the carefully controlled world she'd built for herself and Emma. I had moments of doubt, wondering if I was ready for the responsibility of being in a child's life. We argued, we compromised, we learned each other's boundaries and triggers. But we also discovered joy in the small moments: Sunday morning pancakes with Emma, quiet conversations after she went to bed, the gradual merging of our separate lives into something shared and precious. A year after that fateful day in the office, I moved into their apartment. Emma helped me unpack my books, solemnly informing me which ones she thought were worthy of keeping and which ones looked too boring for our family. Our family. The words had come so naturally from her lips. That night, after Emma was asleep, Sarah and I stood on the balcony overlooking the city. "Do you ever think about how differently things might have gone if you hadn't walked into my office that day?" she asked, leaning against my shoulder. "Sometimes," I admitted. "But then I remember that I walked into your office every day for almost a year before that. Maybe it was just finally the right moment for both of us." Sarah turned to face me. "Thank you for being my emergency date that day." I smiled, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Thank you for being brave enough to ask. Life doesn't always give us perfect beginnings. Sometimes it gives us messy, tear-stained moments of vulnerability instead. Sometimes it gives us a boss crying on an office floor, a curious 5-year-old, and a question that changes everything: do you want to be my date today? And sometimes, if we're brave enough to say yes to unexpected opportunities, those imperfect beginnings lead us exactly where we're meant to be. If this story touched your heart, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Remember that behind every person, even the ones who seem to have it all together, there's a human being facing their own struggles. And sometimes, the most meaningful connections in our lives begin in the moments when we're brave enough to be vulnerable with each other.